Well, welcome everyone to the first of two panels on today's Trek Talks, and we're focusing specifically on the creative voices that made Star Trek. My name is Alison Pitt. I'm the host of Daily Star Trek News, and I am joined today by some of the most influential people who have honed the style of Star Trek that you know and love. So let's go around and introduce them really quickly, and then we'll get into our discussion. So first up, Judi Brown. She's a script supervisor for DS9 and Enterprise, as well as the TNG era films. We've got Eric Stillwell. He's a writer and producer whose involvement with Star Trek spans everything from on-screen to Trek cruises to Starfleet International. We've got Denise and Mike Okuda, who you will probably have seen on other panels before. They're award-winning graphic designers whose work on Star Trek is instantly recognizable. And of course, last, but very much not least, Dan Curry. He's a multiple Emmy Award-winning VFX supervisor for Trek, as well as the creator of the Batleth. Very cool. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope everyone is all ready and looking forward to chatting with you all. So to get us started, I just want to talk quickly. All of you in your way have had, you've touched something about Star Trek that at some point has become iconic, right? As a creative person, do you know when you're working on it that's going to be the thing that catches people? Let's kick it off with the Okudas. You guys, when you're working on something, do you know that that's going to be the thing, or is it, you're just trying to fulfill the requirements of the job and then afterwards you find out?
It depends. We have a little bit of an advantage because we started out as Star Trek fans, so we loved it going in, and we understood that the symbol for the Federation is something that's going to become important, and so you had a sense there. But a lot of times, no, you really don't. I remember very much working on Eric's episode, Yesterday's Enterprise, which I honestly didn't think very much of at the time. And then when I saw the first cut of it, I went, oh my God, this is great.
One of my favorite episodes too, Eric.
Oh, thank you.
I guess, Eric, that's a question for you then. Did you know at the time?
Well, not really, except I was also a huge Star Trek fan growing up. And so I felt like I was inspired by the best of the original Star Treks. And so I always held out hope that it would turn out okay. But even the writers who wrote the teleplay thought, because of the time scheduling and the short period of pulling it all together, that it probably wasn't going to work out very well. So everybody was surprised.
I know when we were filming the episode about the Tribbles, and we went back and we were incorporating the Deep Space Nine cast into existing footage with Captain Kirk and Nimoy and all of that. We knew that that was something very special, and we all took such great pains and great pride in doing that. But a lot of times, no, you don't know. You're just under so much pressure to get it done in a certain time period and to meet the requirements of the moment.
And what does it feel like when you really feel like you're doing something special, and then when you have to wait, and then finally when you get to see fans' reactions, how does that feel to you?
Oh, it's great.
I imagine so. Dan, the same question for you, actually, because you are known as the person who came up with the Batleth and the Mechleth as well, right?
This is true.
Did you kind of know that was going to be, or were you like, well, we need a sword thing?
Well, I've been imagining what became the Batleth for a long time, but had no reason to create one. I lived in Asia for a long time and studied martial arts. When that episode came along, I decided to suggest it to the producers because the Klingon should have an ergonomically sound weapon, and something that was fluid and had all sorts of potential possibilities. When I just happen to have Batleth #1 right here.
Ow, awesome.
And the first time Dennis Madalone saw it, he said, I can't possibly work with that. And he, so then I showed him some of the tricks, and he came to appreciate the decapitation flanges and how it worked as various stages of levers for ripping up through the thoracic cavity, which is how Worf ultimately kills Gowron, by the way. And
spoilers.
And so that's how, and Dennis and the stunt team became evangelists for the Batleth. And one note, it was the first new bladed weapon approved by the Korean Martial Arts Association. Wow. And the Navy Department of Research sent somebody to visit me and discuss bladed weapon ergonomics.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
So that actually brings up an interesting question for me, and this is for all of you really. How much of what you do originates on the page, where in the script, or how much of it is your conceptualizing of what things should look like and filling in the blanks of what that style is?
I think it always starts on the page, and it always starts with story. And then it goes through the different levels. I mean, we who worked in the art department, our production designer on Deep Space Nine was Herman Zimmerman. And, it would all flow through him. So that pretty much was the order in which it went. I mean, you can have ideas and so forth, but it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, story is king.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Story is king. Everything that we do must serve the story, or we have not done our jobs well.
But the other thing in television is there's never enough time, and there's never enough time, period. And there really isn't time to plan everything out. So you have to trust your people. You have to trust the production designer. You have to trust visual effects. You have to trust costume designer. Each department, you have to the producers give them guidance. You certainly take a lot of cues from the script, but you have to trust each person to do his or her job well. And when we do, then it shows in the final product.
Well, the Star Trek shows had such good departments. You could trust that the costume department was going to come up with the right stuff, and the art department, and the hair, and the makeup, and the set designs, and all of the different departments were so good that it really helped. Everybody helped. It was just a pleasure to work with all the different departments.
Well, one of the things about Star Trek that for me made it unique, and why I stayed with the show for so long, is the interrelationship between the departments. On many series, each department is like a medieval fiefdom, and you can't cross onto their turf. Whereas on Star Trek, as Mike brought up earlier, trust. All the departments trusted each other. So even though I worked in visual effects, I felt I was an honorary member of the art department. And if I wanted to design something myself, they would say, okay.
We would love it when you design stuff.
And so I think it's that degree of trust and respect that we had for each other that made it family. And I think, I've worked on a number of different productions, but none had quite that intensity of feeling like family as the Star Trek shows.
Do you have a favorite story of that time where you can remember thinking, I'm really not sure about this, but you have to hand it off to somebody anyway, and then the final product comes out amazing?
Well, sometimes despair is the mother of creation. We've got a short time and no money, and we had to figure out how to make some new phenomenon.
Now, actually, Dan, you're known for kind of throwing those things together, aren't you? Figuring out things to put together to create new props and effects. Do you have a favorite one of those where you were like, we just need to figure something out, let's do it?
That's pretty much like the early biplane pilots, seat of the pants. Just make it up as you go along and hope you were right.
I have an example from when we were doing yesterday's Enterprise. Even though it might start on the page, the creative teams who work on the sets and do the lighting and all the creative elements on the stage really went above and beyond what we even envisioned in the process of doing yesterday's Enterprise. So when the bridge like converted into this alternate universe with all this really cool lighting and the new set design on the bridge, those were things that we didn't even visualize doing because we didn't think you could afford it.
And liquid nitrogen was our savior on yesterday's Enterprise to create that vortex.
Wow. So for all of you, I know Eric and Mike and Denise, you guys talked about having been fans of the show before, and Judi and Dan, I can't remember if you guys had also talked about that before. You guys are really all part of the fabric of Star Trek. Looking back on your careers and that piece of it, what does that mean to you to have been instrumental in creating what Star Trek is now?
Making television and any filmmaking it's always stressful. There's never enough time, never enough money. You're always under a lot of pressure, and a lot of times there was arbitrary decisions that you may not necessarily agree with, and you get frustrated, but you do the best you can. And Denise and I always tried very hard to remember it's a privilege to be here. Try to look around and enjoy where you are, and also remember that as important as Star Trek was to us when we were 10 or 12 years old, even if what we're doing is less than perfect, you hope that it might be as important to some 10 or 12-year-old out there watching what you're doing.
And also we were creating Gene Roddenberry's universe, which is an optimistic and something to strive for. And so that was very important. And I think that it's needed now more than ever. And we are very proud to, all of us are, I'm sure, very proud to have worked on something that was so positive.
Agreed. I'm super, as a fan, I'm super proud of even it was a great honor just to have the opportunity to work on this show. And in retrospect, as the years have gone by, I'm still very proud of it. It's probably the most fulfilling thing I've done in my entire career.
It is. You feel like you're part of something much bigger than a momentary hour's entertainment for someone. And one of the things that I loved is the fabric of Star Trek. I would read the first draft of the script, and something that was a minor character in the later scripts, they pulled a character from an earlier episode or from an earlier series and brought that character back. And so that it made a much richer tapestry that it just carried forward. And the writers respected the actors respected the writers and the writing. And like you said, every department was trusted and was working to fulfill that vision.
That's wonderful. Okay, I want to switch gears really quickly, and I want to talk about swag because each of you got to touch actual cool things. And on my show, one of my favorite things that I like to do every week is a Star Trek show and tell. Obviously, I'm surrounded by Star Trek stuff. So, a little bit of gossip. You guys must have taken stuff back from set. Dan, we've seen your bat'leth. But there must have been other things that you either snuck away or that you were like, I've made this and I need to keep it, and you've still got it in your house. Can you tell me about something that you love that you've kept from the set from those years? Or are you allowed to say?
It's very interesting. No, really, seriously, it's very interesting because people kind of ask us that all the time. And we were so busy that it really didn't. Well, I mean, we've got, I don't know, a doorbell. We have a doorbell But we really don't. I mean, we just didn't. We were working.
When we were working at Paramount, being a fan of the original series, I really wanted an original series phaser, and those are very costly on the collector's market. I mean, they're absurdly expensive. Fast forward to 2006, we're working on the remastered version of the original Star Trek, and a whole bunch of us put on uniforms, and we walked around in front of a green screen for new visual effect shots, and I wore this toy on my belt. So this phaser, there you go, looks a lot like that. This phaser ended up in episodes of the original Star Trek. So I now have an original screen-used phaser. I'm very proud of it.
That's kind of like the backdoor way to get yourself a screen-used prop. As some people would argue that that's actually the better way to do it. So excellent. Well done. So Denise, is there anything that you wished, like in retrospect, that you'd pocketed away then?
One of the most Judi mentioned it earlier, was Trials and Tribulations from Deep Space Nine. Everybody gave 200%, and I would have liked to have taken a tribble home from that episode, but again, it just didn't occur to me. I do know that John Dwyer, who was the set decorator on the original series, was set decorator for first season TNG, and he brought in one day brought it in from Mike in a shoebox, those data chips that they used in the original series, those blocks of wood, painted blocks of wood. And he basically said, "Hey, Mike, I found these. Would you be interested in having them?" And of course, that's.
So we have a couple of those.
We have a couple of those.
Although over the years we gave most of those.
There some of them are in our safe deposit box, but that was cool because that was from the original series.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, that was wonderful.
Actually, Denise and Michael gave me, as a present on the very first season of Deep Space Nine, a English to Klingon and Klingon to English dictionary. and Denise, you said to me, you're one of the few people on the planet that actually has a use for this.
That's wonderful. And now you can learn it on Duolingo.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. They've actually, slight tangent, just this week, they've announced that they're actually adding Klingon as an official language to LibreOffice, which is an open source, like Office programs, word processor and all that. It's official now. So
you can also learn Klingon on Duolingo.
Yeah. It's crazy. So
hey, John.
we seem to have an invader.
The Denobulans are like this. We just pop in unannounced, unexpected, uninvited. We expect to be served a hot meal and to be given all the pleasures of the house. Go. This is why we're the least popular species in Star Trek.
With a big smile.
The big smile. Yes.
Yeah, big smile.
The $10,000 smile. Did you build that smile for me, Larry? Do I have you to thank for that? No, Larry, Dan, excuse me.
Yeah, we did a little digital stretch on your physiognomy.
I wish
I thought that was all natural.
Yeah, the puffer fish, that was all natural. But yeah. Now we won't talk about some of the other things, that the artificial enhancements that were rejected by the powers that be.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. We were just discussing swag that all of these fine folks took home from the set or wished they had, except for Eric.
One time the prop master gave me a stack of Dixon Hill business cards, but that's about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
They gave them to me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Dan, besides your batleth, have you got one that that maybe you treasure?
Well, I just grabbed or asked permission to have copies of things I designed, and I'll tell you a quick story. the Mechleth, when Michael Dorn signed on to Deep Space Nine, I got a funny phone call. Daniel, I need a new weapon. And Michael wanted something that he could hide behind his back. So he came over to my house and looked at my collection of weapons I brought back from Asia. And I showed him a Nepalese Kora sword. And so this is the very first Mechleth. This is the tip of a Nepalese Kora sword. And then Michael and I worked out these things. He wanted something he could do his backhand, that if you blocked a weapon, it would guide the opponent's weapon away. You could use it for close quarters cutting with all parts of the weapon. It could grapple an opponent's weapon, and underhand used to dispel any hope your opponent might have for future progeny. So this is the original.
It's the original.
Made of cardboard.
Thank God I was a Denobulan.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you.
So I was dropped in because I think you were coming to the end of your panel. So I don't know.
Yeah, we were.
We were.
We were just about to say goodbye to everyone and say thank you for joining us and supporting what a great cause.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Star Trek does not promise that tomorrow will be a better place. Star Trek says tomorrow can be a better place if we work hard, if we're compassionate, if we're tolerant, if we take care of each other. And John, through the Hollywood Food Coalition, is making an important effort in that area. Please support them.
No.
Yeah, thank you. Well spoken.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm going to segue here, and again, thank you guys so much. We are now pushing on, if we haven't surpassed $15,000 so far. Here's my pitch to you. I know what you're thinking. I'm saying $50 and you're saying $20. So how about splitting the difference? If you donate $40 before the end of the next panel, I will throw in an extra $10 to add to your $40 to make an even 50. For every $40 donation between now and the end of the next panel, I will throw in $10. Doesn't mean that you can't still donate $20 or $10,000. That's up to you. Coming up, Robbie Duncan McNeil and Bonnie, I apologize if I have to sell the house. You know, what the hell. Robbie Duncan McNeil could not be with us today, but he is a great pal of ours. And he was generous